Hello, everyone. It's 2 o'clock. Well, 2 o'clock on my clock, Eastern Time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on time. We'll just give everyone else a moment or two to get through all the clicks and get their technology working so that they can join us as well. I see lots of people streaming in, so we'll hang on just a few more moments. And thanks again to everyone who has joined us on time. Okay, awesome. I see quite a few people have now just joined us, so let's begin. Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar today. This is the second webinar of our free membership growth online summit 2018. Every day this week at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, a top expert is going to join us to share the strategies used by successful organizations to grow and keep growing, especially in today's world where it seems harder than ever to get anyone's attention. So, welcome to day 2. This afternoon, Farhad Chikhliwala joins us. Farhad is the head of demand generation at Wild Apricot. We're lucky to have him because he's a sought-after expert when it comes to digital marketing. We'll bring Farhad on shortly, but in the meantime, let me introduce myself. So, my name is Sonia Kosla, and I'm on the Wild Apricot content team. Beside me are my colleagues Rano and Donald, who will help host this webinar. Rano is sitting next to me in a canoe on the ground like he's doing here in that pic. I'm not sure why he prefers a canoe to a chair, but regardless, he's here with us now, and he's here to help you. So please, during the webinar, feel free to ask any questions to us or Farhad. And to do that, you can use the chat box. Okay, so I want to make a couple of quick reminders before moving on. First, I want to let you know that we are recording this webinar and the other summit webinars this week, and we'll be sending you an email with a link to the recordings next week. So watch out for that. I also want to let you know that by attending today, you are eligible to earn 1 CAE credit. Okay, so we'll get going in just another couple of minutes, but let me briefly say that today's webinar is being brought to you by Wild Apricot. I know many of our customers are on here with us today, so a big welcome to all of you. But I also know that we have many people here who aren't familiar with Wild Apricot, and I want to welcome you all as well. For those of you who don't know, Wild Apricot is membership management software. It's actually an all-in-one solution for anyone running a membership organization, and that's because you can manage your member and contact database, run your events, build your website, process all your payments, and so on. Many of our customers consider it a lifesaver because it saves them hours a day in administrative tasks, freeing them up to focus on fulfilling their organization's mission. And we're quite thrilled with many of our customers have been able to accomplish. We've watched many of them grow since we started 12 years ago, and they've watched us grow too. So, thanks to our customers, we've been ranked as the #1 rated membership management software solution on the market 7 years in a row. And while we pride ourselves on helping people with great software, we're also a leading provider of free educational content, which you'll find on our blog and in webinars like today's. Now, if you have any questions about Wild Apricot, we're happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. So you're all free to stick around with us after the hour if you're able. Okay, now let me introduce Farhad. Farhad Chikhliwala is the head of demand generation at Wild Apricot. As an expert in digital marketing, he has helped make Wild Apricot the #1 rated membership management software solution on the market 7 times in a row, ranked by Capterra, an online software review website. In fact, he's a big reason why over 25,000 organizations have found their way to Wild Apricot and have started using our software. And one of the areas Farhad knows really well is Google. So today he's going to draw on his many years of digital marketing success to show you how you can use Google's platform to attract and engage more members. So, Farhad, the floor is yours and take it away.
Thank you, Sonia. Thanks, and thanks everyone for joining. And I want to give a quick thanks to Sonia, Donald, and Rano for having me again for 2018's Membership Growth Summit. It's always been a great pleasure to host, for us to host it here at Wild Apricot, and it's a great privilege for me to be asked to speak again this year. And so thanks so much. Okay, so today we've got some limited time, so we've got about 55 minutes. I want to get started real quick. What I want to talk today about is showing you a few different ways that we can use Google to grow your membership. And the idea here is we're going to be trying to figure out a couple of different ways to generate traffic to your website so that you can then convert that traffic into meaningful contributors to your organization. And I think that's the key here. We're going to use Google in a paid form as well as an organic form to actually generate traffic. So that's going to be the focus of our talk today. So here's a quick agenda for the day. I want to quickly start by kind of talking about a little bit about Google and why I think Google is a great place to start for all of you. Then, of course, I'm going to talk about kind of what is the point of actually generating this traffic, and I'm going to show you some examples on why that's so important. And then finally, I have a couple of 2 or 3 playbooks that I want to share. Depending on time, I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of them, but I definitely want to focus on the SEO, which is the search engine optimization part, and give you some playbooks on how you can start generating some free traffic to your website. And then, of course, we'll go into more of the paid advertising part of Google's suite of products, which includes Google search ads and display ads. And so depending on time, we might have to cut out the display ads, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so I want to do a quick poll before we get started, so we're all on the same page and I kind of get a good understanding of what's going on and learn a little bit more about you guys. So Rano's going to launch a poll right now. You should see it on your screen. So the question here is, do you use Google to generate traffic to your website? And I would love for all of us to select all that apply. So feel free to check multiple boxes if that's the case. So A is no, not really. B is yes, we use Google Ads. And C is yes, we try to increase organic traffic. So I'm going to let it go run for a couple more seconds. We've got quite a few responses. I see a lot of responses coming in. I think we can end the poll at this point. Thank you. I see 75% of us voted, so that's great. Let's see the results, Rano. Okay, so here are the results. Wow, so 75% of people said that no, not really. People that you aren't using Google at all. I see 25% of you are trying some SEO stuff, which is great and encouraging, and only 11% are using Google Ads. So that's gives me a good snapshot. That's sort of what I expected. So I think hopefully I have enough here today to satisfy all of you, especially the people who said they're not doing anything. I hope to inspire you and give you a few tips and tricks to help you get going. For the people who are using Google Ads, that's awesome. I hope I can show you a little bit of how it works and maybe some tips on how to get to improve and optimize a little bit. And then, yeah, people who are using SEO, yeah, we have some awesome playbooks that I hope can maybe improve your processes that you currently have. So I think there's a little bit for everybody. Great. I think we can end the poll and let's get going. Okay, so let's talk about Google. Obviously, I think most of us would have interacted with Google in some sense or the other. Here are just a handful of Google's many products that kind of touch billions of people all around the world. You have Android on the mobile side of things. You have Gmail and Chrome. You have even Google Slides and Docs. In fact, this presentation was built on Google Slides. You have Google Ads and many, many more things here. But today I want to focus on 2 specific products, and they're very interchangeable and quite linked in some ways. One is Google Search, and yes, I consider Google Search a product, which is sort of the linchpin of the Google empire, if you will. And then you have Google Ads, which is closely related to search in the way that I'm going to show you how to use. So I'm going to focus on these 2 products and figure out how we can get some traffic using some of these things. Okay, so when I talk about traffic, there are really 2 kinds of traffic that I'm talking about. One is paid traffic, and that's where we're going to talk about Google Ads. So that's actually paying and investing some money and paying Google to actually show ads to specific audiences, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And that can actually be a great way to get very targeted traffic coming to your website. And on the other hand, we have organic traffic, which is organic search results that show up on our search results page, where Google decides to show your page for a specific search result. And so I'm going to go into details on both of these, but just so you know, that's going to be sort of our sort of two acts of this presentation, if you will. So before we get into all of that, why are we even bothering with traffic? That's a great question that I get asked all the time. So let's take an example. This is a blog post by a horticultural society. And it's quite a common blog post that you might find on many websites, including Wild Apricots, maybe even including your own website. You might be putting out content that you think is relevant to your members or to your future members. One thing I do want to point out on this page, and I've just highlighted it in red, are these three boxes. So the first box at the very top, so I call these three call to actions. So they're CTAs, or call to actions. It's basically asking the visitor of the web page to take some kind of action apart from just reading the content. So at the very top, you see it says give now and membership. So that denotes someone can actually donate to the organization or become a member. You've also got some social media buttons here. So the ability for a visitor to actually become a social media follower and engage in that sense. And then you have another box here, which is highlighting allowing people to join their email list. So that means subscribing to their newsletter or their email list for some reason. So you can see that there are 3 or 4 different ways that this page is designed to capture the attention and get someone from becoming a visitor to more than a visitor, becoming someone who's a little bit more engaged with the organization. And so this is a great example, and I suggest all of your pages should have some form of these call to actions, so that when a visitor does land on your page, they actually have some meaningful interaction that they can take that can take place on your page. So here's that page again. I like to think of the page as sort of a machine. At the very top, you kind of have a normal visitor, just a regular Joe off the street, somehow lands on your web page. The machine then has a call to actions on the side, and the machine, once someone interacts with that page in that way, becomes sort of a meaningful contributor to your organization, whether that's a social media follower, whether it's a newsletter subscriber, or better yet, a donor or a member. Now, there are a lot of benchmark studies done, especially on blog posts and educational content, like the example we're looking at now, where the average conversion rate seems to hover at about 1 or 1.1%. So what that means is it takes about 100 people who come to your website. Only about 1% of those will actually become a meaningful contributor to your organization. Only 1% of them will actually take that call to action and actually interact with your site in such a way that they become a little bit more engaged. So that's the name of the game here. It's a volume game. We're trying to increase the number of people that go up into this machine, basically people who actually visit the page, and therefore we'll get more and more people becoming meaningful contributors to your organization. That's really what we're trying to do here. So what I want to show you today is some different tactics and strategies to try to improve the number of people that are coming into your page, into your machine up here. So let's talk a little bit about Google search. And I think that'll give us a good baseline understanding before we go deeper. So Google search has over 3.5 billion searches per day. In fact, there's a great website here which allows you to see a Google Live statistic. Yeah, you can see as of today, there's already been more than 3.6 billion Google searches worldwide. And you can see there are tens of thousands of Google searches literally going on every second. And you can see how quickly it's climbing here. And that just tells me that there's so many people who are actually using Google. Actually, some of you might be not listening to me at the moment and on a different tab searching something. So please snap back. But that's normal. Okay, so let's come back to our horticultural society. So here's their page. This is an organization. The people who they're trying to attract are people, horticulturists, maybe agricultural specialists, maybe farmers, maybe gardeners, anyone in their sort of local area who might be interested in vegetables and gardening and growing things and all things biological and natural. So I like to use examples and story in my presentations to try to get things to become a little bit more familiar and easy to understand. So let's pretend this organization has about 500 members at the moment. What they also know is that their potential is huge. In their area, they have identified there could be up to 10,000 potential members, potential people who could be contributing to their organization around their area. So they know that their total market is quite large. Now, one thing that I can say almost for certain is a big chunk of those 10,000 people are using Google. And we know this by I just showed you how many people actually use Google search every day and a number of searches. And we just know that, it's hard, you'd be hard pressed to find someone in your neighborhood that isn't interacting with Google search in some way. It really is the window to the internet. And so the point here is that the people you're trying to go after, your target market, chances are that they're using Google search. And so why not use Google search? Why not use the medium that they're using to try to attract them to your website? And that's exactly what we're going to try to do today. So how does search work to begin with? So Google search is basically designed to match each search query to the most relevant web page. So as soon as you put in a search, Google looks through its database of all the web pages that exist, that's in their database, and then tries to match up a list of web pages that it thinks will answer your search query the best. And it's trying to do this really, really quickly. So when people search, and you might have seen this, you usually see two types of search results. One are paid results and one are organic results. So I'm going to show you an example of that. So here's a screenshot that I took earlier this week. You can see in the search bar, I typed wild apricot. So that's our company's name. And I can see two groups of results that show up on this search results page. At the very top, we have paid ads. And so you can see there's a small little icon that says ad and ad. So these are two separate listings for people who are showing ads when someone searches the term wild apricot. The first result is wildapricot.com itself. And so that's part of my role here, is to manage these kind of advertisements. And so you can see that I've managed to make sure that when someone searches for wild apricot, the very first result is our own ad with our own link. The second is another ad, which again shows that it's a competitive keyword. So there are other people who can actually show an ad for this particular keyword, wild apricot. And so there's some company called Union Membership Software. I think they're new. I haven't really heard of them, but clearly they're competing against us, and they want to show an ad when someone searches wild apricot. And so you can see the first two listings on a search page are actually ads. And so we're actually paying to be in that company. This can actually be up to 4 ads at the very top, and sometimes there can be another 4 ads at the very bottom of the page as well. But I would say let's focus on the top. So right now there are 2, but possibly could be up to 4 depending on how many people are competing to show an ad. As soon as the paid ads end, you have this section, which is the organic ad. So there's no money transacted here with Google. Google has actually chosen the site www.wildapricot.com, our homepage, as the #1 result for the term wild apricot. So it makes sense. Wild apricot's algorithm, Google's algorithm has decided that when someone searches wild apricot, there's a high probability that they're looking for wildapricot.com. And so it's shown that. And then you can see there's some other websites like Glassdoor, like Capterra. There's some Twitter stuff here. So Google has decided that those are the kind of links that people want to see when wild apricot is searched. And so those are the organic results. So basically we've split up the results into 2 sections. And again, I'm going to show you how to generate traffic from both of these sections. So before we getting into the tactical stuff, I want to show you what's possible. So we've worked here at Wild Apricot with countless membership organizations, and I've seen many different organizations over the years and try to help them with their marketing. So this is one thing that we've seen, which is very common. So look, this is the traffic sources. I've just made up these graphs to illustrate my point. But you can see that the paid traffic is virtually 0. Most people are not doing paid traffic, as we saw from our poll over there. Only about 11% of you guys are using AdWords in some way, so that makes sense. And you can see that the organic traffic for most people is quite stagnant. Somehow, some pages are being, some pages are ranking on Google, and they're just getting standard amount of traffic. There's no growth or no decline. And if you hold that 1.1% conversion rate, which I suppose is a little bit conservative, you can see that about only 5 of those visitors make some kind of meaningful contribution to the website through the website every month. So that could be a newsletter subscriber, could be a Twitter follower, could be anything like that. So it's only about 1%. That's quite common. But this is what's possible in the future. And some of the plays that I'm going to show you today, I'm going to do some rough math to show you. But I think that this kind of, someone who has this kind of an organization, this kind of traffic and conversions can reach this in a year's time, if they're really diligent about the processes that I'm going to show today. I think you could get over 5,000 visitors a month. I think you could get easily 60 to 70 conversions a month if you're doing things the right way. And so I just want to try to get you a little bit excited, and hopefully inspire you to try out a few of these things that I'm going to show you. And of course, these people that are visiting and that are converting, that's from this so-called 10,000, right? These are the people who we're trying to target. This is our target market. We want this orange circle to get bigger and bigger and bigger and eat up into this market. So these people are coming through Google. These people are the ones who are using Google, and these people are the ones who are our target market. So yep, let's just dive into it. How are we going to start getting more and more traffic into this machine? So I've got two playbooks that I want to share with you. One is how to generate organic traffic, and that's going to be split up into two sections, which is optimizing your old content. So you already might have a lot of articles and blog posts on your site. So I'm going to show you how to tweak those a little bit to start generating traffic. And then we're going to generate some. We're going to write some new content. So I'm going to show you how to figure out what you actually should be writing for and what your content strategy should be moving forward. So that's the organic side of things. And then we're going to move into the generating paid traffic, and I'm going to show you how to do some basic search engine marketing to help get your ads shown for the correct and relevant keywords. So let's go back to our horticultural society. You can see that this this blog post is titled a veggie primer. So that's really what the post is about. If you were to read the post, it's really about different kinds of vegetables that you should be planting in the springtime, and goes into details of why you should be planting these vegetables and what the best time and how to actually grow them. So that's really the substance of the blog post. So what we're going to do now is we want to try to optimize the page. So the page is already written. Let's assume that we already have a blog post that exists. We're going to make some tweaks on the page itself to make it easier for Google to match up your page to relevant queries. Again, that's really the name of the game. So people are going to be searching for stuff. We're going to figure out what they're searching for and then change our page so that it matches up with those search results. That's really what we're trying to do. And in order to do that, I'm going to introduce a piece of software here, a super powerful tool that we use internally almost every day. It's called Moz. And the Moz is a leading expert in software and in education on SEO and best practices on how to grow your organic traffic. So here's a screenshot of Moz. I know there's a lot going on, but I want to focus your attention to a couple of things. You can see that, as we know, that the blog post in question was called a veggie primer. Let me show it to you again. Here it's called a veggie primer. So I've taken that title and I've put it into Moz. On the very top here, they have a search bar that I can put it into. When I put it into and I hit enter, I get a bunch of data points that show up based on the keyword veggie primer. The one that I want to draw your attention to is this data point, which is called monthly volume. So what this tells me is what is the average monthly volume for people searching for this keyword. So how many people are actually searching for this keyword on a monthly basis? And so you can see when not many people are searching for veggie primers, sometimes even less than 10 in some instances of people actually searching for veggie primers. So what that tells me is, unfortunately, even though the title and the article is written about a so-called veggie primer, there's not enough people searching for it. And so the likelihood that this article is actually being seen by many people, or many new people at least, is quite low. And so that's unfortunate. Another thing that that Moz actually shows you is keyword suggestions. So these are some other keywords that are sort of related and that you might want to consider that your post should be ranking for. So the idea here is these are some of the other keywords that might fit your post, and so that when someone searches for these keywords, your page should show up. So here I can see there's something called oil-free vegan, which has some traffic, some high monthly volume, American vegetarian recipes, plant-based meal plan, things like this. So in this case, these keyword suggestions are not quite right, but I would suggest this is probably the best place to check to see what you should be ranking for. Because I've read that blog post in depth, I know that it's really about spring vegetable gardens. That's really what the article is about. If someone were to search the term spring vegetable garden and then read that blog post, it would be a match made in heaven. It's perfect. It answers all your questions about a spring vegetable garden. So let's use that as an example. So this is the veggie primer. Let's use spring vegetable garden as our keyword. So when I put spring vegetable garden up onto the search bar, you can see that the monthly volume pops up again, and you can see it's way higher than a veggie primer. So that's a good step, right? That's like a little bit of a litmus test for us, where we can see, okay, that's good. That means more people are actually searching for this phrase, and that's really encouraging. And remember, who are these people who are searching for spring vegetable garden, right? These are people who would be in your 10,000, in your target 10,000, right? These are people who are gardeners or horticulturists or agriculturists or someone who's interested in that world. And so chances are they could be interested in your organization as well. So that's key to remember when selecting your keywords, what kind of keywords would be interesting to your target audience. Another data point that I want to address you to is this difficulty score. So Moz gives a difficulty score from 0 to 100. In this case, it's about 35. So the difficulty score really is a scale that tells you how difficult it is to rank for this particular keyword on the first page. And so it's sort of a scale from 0 to 100. So this is how difficult it is to get onto the first page. Now, we've done this process countless times here at Wild Apricot, and we know many organizations who've used this process as well. And what we found is with the difficulty score is that if it's between 0 and 20, it's pretty easy, and you should go for it and attempt to rank for that keyword. And the idea here is that because there's such low competition and people aren't looking at that keyword very closely, just the mere fact of you writing a page, and I'm going to show you how to write the page properly, but if you follow those steps and write a page, you should be able to rank for it pretty easily without much else. Between 20 and 40, I would say it's a little bit, it shouldn't be too hard, but you need to probably spend a little bit more time writing your post, and I'm going to show you some of the tips and tricks on how to do that. For this particular hour, I want to move away from the 40 to 60 and 60 plus difficulty. That denotes that these keywords are super competitive and people are actually spending a lot of money trying to figure out, and a lot of resources trying to figure out how to rank. And so for your case, I would say we should probably stay away from those, and probably the highest return on your investment will come from difficulty scores that are under 40. However, Wild Apricot does have a lot of resources on how to actually tackle some of the harder keywords. And then later on, Sonia and Rana will send you a link to another video that I think could be super useful. So we're gonna wait on that. So our focus is gonna be on the easier keywords. Okay, so that's sort of the first half of optimizing old content done, which is determining the keyword you want to rank for. We've done some little bit of research and we figured out that spring vegetable garden is the right keyword we want to rank for. So when someone searches spring vegetable garden, I want to make sure that our page, that particular page, shows up. Now, in order to do that, we're going to have to go through this 7-step process of things we want to change on the very page itself. So let's jump into that. And please keep your questions coming. If you're confused about anything or have any questions, please keep them coming. I'm going to set aside some time at the end to answer them. So please keep them coming. Okay, so first step, we are going to make some changes onto that veggie primer page. So we had our blog post and it was called a veggie primer. Simple first step, let's change the keyword in the page title itself. So I'm going to change it to Easy Spring Vegetable Garden Guide. Simple first step. If we want Google to figure out that this page is about spring vegetable gardens, it makes sense to just change the title and call it Easy Spring Vegetable Garden Guide. And that's the kind of changes we're going to be making. Next change, let's include that keyword multiple times within the article itself. So you can see here, I've added it 3-4 times inside the text of the article. Again, you can go up to 15 times, but I would say anywhere between 10 or 11 times is a good sweet spot. So try to include it in there. You don't want to just sprinkle it anywhere. Obviously, make it flow with the content that's in there, and it'll make a lot of sense. Next, we want to include the keyword in the H1 tag. So that's usually a subheading. So again, try to include the keyword in one of your subheadings as well. Next, try to include the keyword in your alt text of your image. So your content management system can use spring vegetable garden. You can actually include an alt text in your image. So spring vegetable garden, make sure that's the alt text of your image. Also, another simple one, change the keyword in your URL. So include the keyword in your URL. So you can see the URL here is horticulture.org/spring vegetable garden. Again, guys, I think you're trying to, hopefully you're seeing the pattern here. If we want Google to rank this page for spring vegetable garden, we need to tell Google, hey, this page is about spring vegetable garden. So we're trying to include the words and the keywords in as many places as possible. Another place to do it is in your meta description. So again, your content management system should allow you to tweak your meta description. This is the little blurb that shows up on the Google search results page. If you don't actually write it yourself, then Google will do it automatically. So I would suggest writing a nice hook here, and then including the keyword in there as well. Next is, and final, is including the keyword in the meta keyword. So each page usually has a meta keyword that you can set. And again, your content management system should allow you to do that. So if it does, make sure it's set to the keyword that we decided on. So that's the page that we originally had called a veggie primer. And now we did all those tweaks. So let's look at all those tweaks in the aggregate. So this is our blog post. You can see that we changed the title to Easy Spring Vegetable Garden Guide. I included Spring Vegetable Garden in the text itself. I've included it in the subheading, which is the H1 here. I've included it as a meta tag in the back end of this image. The meta description has been updated to include the keyword. And you can see I've updated the URL to include the keyword as well. So here you can see that's the beauty of this, right? We've only, this probably take you 20 or 30 minutes to go in, figure out which keyword you want to rank for, and then just make the quick changes onto your blog post to include all of those keywords. So that's really what we're talking about, right? It could literally take 30 minutes to do this. And I would say this is probably the lowest hanging fruit for all of you to start getting some traffic. And so let's see what the potential for that is, right? So let's imagine we did all of that for this page. And now this page is ranking on the first page of Google for Spring Vegetable Garden. I'm seeing a lot of questions about Moz, and people are asking about alternatives to Moz. And I'm going to go into some alternatives that could help. One of them is Google AdWords, Google Ads Planner, Keyword Planner, and that's actually a free tool through Google. We're going to use it for paid ads, but I think you could use it very similarly for Moz. So that's one alternative. So I'll definitely go into that later. So thanks for those questions. Coming back to this, imagine we're ranking for Spring Vegetable Garden on the first page. Let's say roughly 400 people search for it every month, and Moz gave us that information. Let's say about half of the people click on your link, so that's about 200 people clicking on the link every month. Let's assume that that 1.1 conversion rate that we talked about earlier holds. Therefore, we're getting 2 meaningful engagements every single month that are coming through. So think about that. We spent literally half an hour on one post, and now we're getting 2 more meaningful engagements on autopilot. This means they could be signing up for your newsletter, or getting new Twitter followers, or even better yet, becoming a member or becoming a donor. So that's just awesome, right? Like for me, it's like that's the biggest ROI that we can see, spending 30 minutes and then seeing this great autopilot return if all things work well. So imagine you did optimized one post per month. Imagine if you just spend one weekend every month going back to a post that's already been written, figure out what you want to rank it for, make those changes that I showed you, and then start building up your traffic. And this is what you'll see as it'll all start layering on top of each other. And soon you'll be having 20 to 30 conversions by the end of next year if you're going to diligently start very strategically choosing which post to optimize and optimizing it using the system I showed you. Okay, so that was sort of the first half of the organic side of things. And so that's sort of how to write new content. Sorry, that was on how to optimize current content. And now I want to move on how to actually start writing a bit of new content for your website. And so the key to that is actually doing keyword research. So let's talk about which keywords you should be targeting, how to select those keywords, and then how to actually go ahead and write for those keywords. So for this example, I'm going to use wild apricot. I'm going to use our example. This is the exact thing that we did to figure out what we should be writing for so that we can generate some organic traffic. So the step one is get all your colleagues, get all your volunteers together in a room and start a brainstorm session. The idea here is you want to brainstorm for keywords that you think your audience would be searching for. So in our example, we're Wild Apricot, so we're a membership management system software provider. So for us, our interested audience, people who we want to attract, are anyone who works in a membership organization. Could be executive directors, could be volunteers, could be anyone in some kind of a active participation in a membership organization. And so you can see some of that's very evident in the keywords that we brainstormed. So things like membership application form, membership marketing, membership leaders, membership app. These are things that people who would be interested in our software would also be interested in these keywords. So that's kind of and again, with brainstorming, keep it loose. There's no bad ideas, but just try to focus in on what you think your core audience would be interested in and create a list. So we have our list here. Next, we're going to come back to Moz, or we can use other tools as well. But here's Moz, and we're going to plug in each of those brainstormed keywords into Moz. And then, for example, the first keyword that we had is membership application form. So I put that in. And again, we're looking for two specific data points, the same ones we talked about earlier. One is the monthly volume, and one is the difficulty. So we're going to go ahead and plug every single one of those brainstorm keywords into Moz, and then get these two data points. And now I'm going to update my sheet. So you can see we've got all the research. We've got all our keywords here. I've got a Moz traffic range, so this is the low end of the traffic and the high end of the traffic. And then I've got the difficulty scores listed here for each of the keywords. So now this is sort of our list that we need to go by. Now the next step is we need to create a short list. Now again, remember the difficulty score. I want to focus on I want to focus on keywords that are between 0 and 20 and 20 to 40. That's going to be our sweet spot. Okay, so two keywords really jump out at me over here. I'm going to tell you why. So the first one is membership renewal letter. So of course the keyword is extremely relevant to my audience. I understand that. So someone who's looking to learn how to create a membership renewal letter, or looking for an example of a membership renewal letter, means they're involved in membership, means they could be potentially involved in membership software. So that's a check mark. You can see the traffic range is between 100 and 200. So that's on the high end on this list. So that's great. And you can see the difficulty is only 25, which is on the lower end of this list. So that's great. So these three are check boxes. So that's one stands out for me. That's definitely in my short list of keywords to target. The second one that sticks out at me is membership card template. Again, the keyword is super relevant to my audience. The traffic is decent and the difficulty is even lower, only 19. So that's awesome. And that definitely stands out that I have a great chance to write content for these two keywords. So now we have our shortlisted keywords. Now we have to go ahead and write articles for these keywords. And again, we're going to use the same principles we talked about before. Those 7 or 8 things that I showed you, including the keyword in different areas of the blog post or the article, in the header, in the image, in the meta tags, all of that stuff. We're going to use the same principles to write. So in summary, I have a quick roadmap of how to get started on this journey to produce organic traffic for your organization. Step 1, definitely start with refreshing the old content. I know a lot of you have content already lying there. You might want to see if it's generating any traffic, use Moz or a similar tool to figure out what to rank for, and then refresh that old content. That's probably the easiest, lowest hanging fruit for you. Concurrently or after that, what you want to do is start brainstorming keywords for the future. Think about what your audience might be looking for, brainstorm keywords, check the traffic, check the difficulty score, and create a nice backlog of keywords that you want to rank for. And then start with the easy keywords, right? Again, look at the difficulty score, and then start with those easy keywords. And then I would say try to determine some kind of publishing frequency. You can hold yourself accountable to it. Here, we're really looking for quality over quantity here. You don't need to publish every day or every couple of weeks. Even once a month can work if you're using this playbook to target very specific type of keywords and write very specific content in a specific way. I think you can see some results. So here's just some this our hypothetical organization. Imagine if you just publish one new post per month. And so these dots are the new published every month. You spend some time doing the keyword research, writing an article in the right way, and you're publishing every month. You can actually have a net gain of 200 views every month, because the article that you wrote here is going to get traffic in Feb. It's also going to get traffic in March, April, May, and onwards. And so you can see it kind of layers on top of each other, and your traffic can really grow at an accelerated rate over the years and over the months if you're focused. And so when we look at 12 months of work, both on optimizing one old post per month, plus publishing one new post per month, and assuming that 1% conversion holds, you can see that your traffic can really almost 10x here, and your conversions can start going up too. And so that's kind of what I want to get you excited about. Is like, even if you do a fraction of some of the stuff that I showed you, I think we can see increased traffic, therefore increased conversion. So that was a big chunk of the presentation, which was the organic side of things. And again, I wanted to focus more time there because I know a lot of the organizations that you're part of have limited budgets, limited marketing scope. And so I think this is a great way to leverage some of your resources and volunteer resources to get something going and experiment with without having to dip into the savings account, so to speak. But for those of you who are interested, let's talk a little bit about Google Ads and see how we can maybe try spending a little bit of money to get in front of the right audiences. So what we're going to talk about is SEM instead of SEO. This is SEM, which is search engine marketing. And so again, we're going to be focusing on the top side of the page. How do we get our ads to show to specific audiences, so people who are searching for specific keywords as a paid ad? And so that's the beauty here. We can show an ad to people based on their intent, right? When people search something, they've made their intent very clear. They've told us what they're looking for, and so we can use that data to then show them an ad. So in our example, when someone searched for wild apricot, it makes a lot of sense for us to show our ad and make sure that we're right at the top here. Okay, so how does that work? So you can see here that there are multiple advertisers here. So when someone searches wild apricot, we show up. In this instance, only one other competitor shows up, but often there are 2 or 3 more that show up. So what's going on here? Basically, it's an auction system. Google needs to creates this kind of auction system to understand which post should be at the very top of the ranking here. So this is called an ad rank. So if you're #1 ad rank, that means you have the #1 spot. And so basically it's 1 to 4 ad rank at the very top here. And then sometimes there are ads at the bottom too. But that's sort of the ad rank. So if there's multiple people trying to show their ad for the same keyword, an auction takes place to figure out who should be shown at the top, who should be second place, third, fourth, onwards. And this ad rank is not necessarily, doesn't go to the highest bidder. It's not like a traditional auction, but instead there are 2 main criteria here. So one is the willingness to spend money, which is a big part of it. So that's what's called your cost per click bid. So that means that's the maximum you are willing to pay per click on your ad. And so that's one factor in your ad rank. The second factor is the quality score. So Google judges how well your ad is written, how well the page that you're taking people to is made and written as well, and then creates a quality score for your ad. So every time an ad is shown, this auction takes place where Google automatically looks at your bid, looks at your quality score, puts that together to create an ad rank, and then that kind of ranks all of the different advertisers in order. And then shows those results on the search result page. Now, the reason ad rank is super important is shown by this graph by AccuraCast, and they've done some research. So you can see the ad positions from 1 through 9. Again, 1 through 4 are the ads at the very top of the page, and then the other ones are often, they used to be on the side, they no longer have side ads, but they're at the bottom of the page now, and sometimes even on page 2. So you can see that when you're in ad position #1, your click-through rate, so that's the percentage of people who clicked the ad as a subset of people who saw the ad, is really high, is at its peak. So a good 7% of people who see the ad will actually click the ad, and then that goes down very, very sharply as the ad position gets worse and worse. So you really want to be in this top 3. That's how you're going to get the biggest chunk of traffic. And so that's why the ad rank is important. Okay, now we're going to quickly spend another 5 or 10 minutes talking about the AdWords setup. I'm going to show you some keyword research, basic system setup, and how to measure some success on a campaign. Again, there's a lot of people have written millions of words on AdWords, and there's a lot of resources that I'll share with you later if you want more details, but I'm going to go a little bit of high-level overview and get you a little bit, hopefully get you excited about AdWords. So again, to use an example, I'm going to use an education charity as an example. So this is a nice page that I found, which is a donation page. So this is a charity that raises money to send impoverished children to get an education. And so I found this page, and I'm going to use this as an example. Now, what we're after is we want to show ads to people who search for specific keywords, and I call these intent-based keywords. So these are the keywords that would help describe your organization, or would be keywords that people would be searching for if they were looking for an organization like yours. So in my case, this is an education charity. So some of the keywords that would make sense to me are education charities, donate to education, or education donations. It stands to reason that if someone types these phrases or these words into Google and they somehow saw an ad or saw a listing for my charity, it's a great match. It's a match made in heaven. People are searching for something, and I'm showing them a very relevant piece of content or relevant page to match up to that. So we need to think about some of these keywords. So let's use the broadest of these as an example, which is education charities. Now, this is the tool that I was talking about earlier, which possibly could be a good alternative to Moz, which is the keyword research planner inside Google Ads. So Google Ads, it's a free account you can create, and then within that there is a tool called Research Planner, and it works in a similar way. So I suppose if you don't have Moz, this is one way to do it, using for the playbooks that I showed you earlier. For this example, we have educational charity as our keyword, so I'm going to put that into the very top here in the search bar. And then a bunch of relevant other similar keywords are also shown to me. So I have some examples of other keywords that potentially are very similar to this educational charity. I'm looking for two criteria here. One is your average monthly searches. So again, that's very similar to what we saw in Moz. And so that's why you can use this similar tool for that. But I'm looking at average monthly searches. And I'm looking at a new metric here, which is the top of the page bid on the low end and the top of the page bid on the high end. So this is the cost per click, as I was telling you earlier. This is probably the range that you need to pay per click if you wanted to advertise for this particular keyword. So you can see, let's say charity supporting education is our keyword. Basically the range is between $2.93 to $5.78. So basically to get the first ad rank, be number one, you'd probably be closer to this number. And if it's on the lower end, it'll be towards this number. So again, this is specifically related to AdWords. And so that's why I'm using this tool to show you how to select some of the keywords for your ads. So 3 of these keywords stand out to me. One is education charities, one is education charity organizations, and one is charities supporting education. So these are the 3 keywords. They seem to have a good monthly search volume, and their bid range is sort of in my budget. I'm going to talk a little bit more about budget and ROI very soon. So let's focus on these 3 keywords. The idea here now is I want to make sure that my ad is shown at the very top search result in Google when someone searches for one of those 3 keywords. So I've created a quick ad here. You can see this is sort of an AdWords ad. It says, donate now, educate our youth, over 1,000 kids served. Our URL is here. And then I've got a tagline saying, donate now to help children from impoverished areas receive a quality education. So now again, you can see how that makes sense. If someone is searching for these keywords, it would make a lot of sense for them to see this ad and hopefully get them to click the ad. So just to give you a more high-level view of what we're doing here, we have the planet Earth, everybody on planet Earth using Google. They're searching for such particular keywords. When they search for the keywords that we're interested in, our ad is shown. When someone clicks the ad, they're taken to our donation page. And so that's really the universe that we're creating. So let's pretend we've launched an ad. It's up and running, and it's been running for a week for those particular keywords. Let's now try to calculate our return on our investment of what's been going on here. So 1 week later, we're back and we see some key data points. Number 1 is our cost per click. So that's again how much we've actually spent when someone clicked on our ad. And for this case, it's $4.50. We also see that about 100 people in that week actually clicked our ad, which is great. And then of those 100 people, 7 people donated on that page. So this is sort of the data that we have right at the get-go. Now I want to draw your attention to this conversion rate. So you can see out of 100 people, 7 people donated. So that's about 7% of people who actually had a meaningful conversion on your website. And that's quite typical in paid advertising. Again, because our message was so targeted and our audience was so targeted, that is quite common to see between a 4 and 8% conversion rate here on the page versus that 1.1 conversion that we saw earlier. So don't be surprised if you see a higher conversion rate, especially with paid ads like this. Now, to understand our return on our investment, we need to look at our costs. So once again, we know our cost per click was $4.50. We know that there were about 100 clicks that week. So basically, we've spent $450 on this ad campaign. Next, let's see how much we raised from this campaign. So from my data, I can tell you that $120 was the average donation size. We had about 7 donations totally. So overall, we raised $840 during this week through this campaign. So quick ROI math, total donation was $840. We spent $450. So our return is $390. So you can see here how we've been able to get a so-called profit of $390 through this investment in this ad. And basically, we were able to get our donation page in front of people who may not have found it otherwise. They could have found another educational charity, they might have found a news organization, something completely irrelevant. But now, because we know what they were searching for, we were able to get our key donation page right in front of them and get this $390 donation where we may not have gotten it before. So that's kind of a quick primer on the AdWords side. And I just want to show you again, when we start layering organic traffic and paid traffic together, what we can see. You can see how I showed you how the organic traffic can increase. Now we're layering on this paid traffic as well. And you shouldn't be surprised if your conversions start really accelerating due to the higher conversion rate on paid traffic. And you just see a great a boost of conversions on your website. And now, of course, these people who are interacting with your website could be different. A certain percentage of people will become new members, certain percentage will become donors, certain percentage will become newsletter subscribers, and etc. Nonetheless, you're bringing in people who are relevant to your organization, who value your organization, and who are becoming meaningful contributors to your organization. So really, that's really what we're talking about. And we're towards the end of my presentation now. But really, this is the reminder. We just want to focus on how to generate traffic to your web page. And when your web page is accurately designed, it can convert and bring people to your organization in many, many different ways. Okay, and then finally, I want to show you how to get started. Of course, I think my presentation was rather a little bit high level on certain aspects. So here are some awesome links for you. Rano is going to put them into the dialog box. So the first one is a Google grants. So actually, Google gives AdWords grants to organizations, nonprofit organizations, up to $10,000 to start advertising. So definitely check that out. You can actually apply and qualify. So many nonprofits do that. Some guides here from TechSoup Canada, who's one of our partners. They have a great AdWords for nonprofits guide. So I definitely check that out. Another great Neil Patel, who's an internet marketer, and he's got a great advice on Google AdWords and a very in-depth blog post about it. So I would definitely check that out. And then actually, Google themselves, they offer courses and training on how to get set up on some of the organic stuff, plus some of the advertisements. And so they have certifications that you can do for free. Really well done courses. So I suggest you check those out as well. Okay, so we have a few minutes for Q&A, I think maybe 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to try to go through some questions. We've got a bunch. Okay, so I have a question from Stan. Since you are already ranking at number 1, why would you run paid ads as well? Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on what kind of organization you're running, but I would say the idea is to dominate the page as much as possible. Especially if the keywords are not that expensive and not that competitive, it would make a lot of sense to rank number 1 for organic and rank number 1 for paid. Because organic, first of all, is not guaranteed. That can change over time. If another competitor comes or something else happens or someone's more serious about that keyword, you could lose your rank. And so that could be detrimental. But if that's not the case, then yeah, it would make sense just to focus on the organic side on it as well. How does one get the expanded organic search results, i.e. subcategories? Oh, right. So that's actually going to be, yeah, so the subcategories, so sometimes when you search for when a result shows up in organic results, you can see there are other links that are other pages on the website. So that's actually, you should ask your webmaster. There are ways to host your sitemap in such a way that Google can actually track those and show those. So it's a sitemap thing. It's usually an XML file that your webmaster would be able to figure out. You might want to just Google sitemap, and I think that should help. Okay, so another question from Lisa. So I've read and heard that Google is changing their algorithm from focusing on keywords and other metadata to be based on reviews and ratings from users. So the more reviews and ratings you have, the better chances you'll be higher in results. How should we plan for this? Yeah, so it's first of all, it's kind of it's difficult to predict what Google is going to be doing. A lot of this, I know a lot of people write about this, but I would say in general, my advice for long-term SEO thinking is to write really good content. Content comes first. If your content is shareable, is exciting, is story-based, it makes people want to read and share and spend time on your page, that to me will always be treated number one over any other small tactics, including some of the stuff I talked today. So we really want to focus on having really good content and doing some of the basics well. But if you're interested in ratings, there are some other review sites that you can link to, like Trustpilot and Capterra, where the ratings are involved. But I think that's more for products and more for businesses. I don't think it applies too much for nonprofits. So for nonprofits and membership-based organizations, I would focus on basic technical optimization, like I showed you, and then really spending time on creating really valuable pieces of content. Okay, so I know there are a lot more questions. We're gonna take this conversation onto our Facebook group as soon as this ends. So I'm gonna be live there for another half an hour after. So if you have any more questions, please put them in there and I'll be happy to answer and maybe even provide you some links and videos to help answer your questions. It's about 5 minutes to the hour, so I'm gonna give it back to Sonia. Thank you everybody for your attention. It was, I hope you learned something new. I hope I'm waiting to hear your feedback on the presentation. So thanks everybody. I'm going to give it back to Sonia to wrap up. Thank you.
Wonderful. I want to thank Farhad so much for sharing his experience and advice today. Now, as mentioned, we are going to share the recording with you in a follow-up email next week once all the webinars are completed. So look out for that. And now that we're coming to the end of the webinar, I want to quickly mention that if you're new to Wild Apricot or have questions for us, I'll cover some free resources and offers in just a moment. If you're already familiar with Wild Apricot, I want to give you a heads up that our big annual in-person conference, Persona Fest 2019, will take place in Savannah, Georgia next April between the 7th and the 10th. It will be a wonderful chance to network with hundreds of fellow customers, industry experts, leaders, and employees from Personify's family of companies, including Wild Apricot. You'll have access to tons of sessions on how to grow and market your organization, as well as sessions on how to get the most out of our software. We will share more details later, but I can tell you that as a registrant for this summit, you'll get a discount code you can use. So look out for an email from us within a few weeks' time. Now, if you're anxious to continue the conversation about SEO and Google Ads, like Farhad mentioned, I encourage you to join our Facebook group. Rano's going to paste the link in now for anyone who wants to join. It's a great place to connect with your peers and our network of experts like Farhad. Okay, so if you're new to Wild Apricot, I want to let you know that you can find more free educational content on our Academy page. Rano is going to paste the link in the chat for that as well. And this is where you can find more webinars, including recordings of all our past webinars. So I highly recommend you take a look at the resources and content on our blog and articles. There's lots of helpful content there about growing your membership, running successful events, recruiting volunteers, and so on. All of that content is free. And lastly, if you're running a membership organization, whether that's a nonprofit, association, or club, or any type of organization, you're welcome to try our software at no cost for 30 days. So feel free to take advantage of this opportunity, especially if you're looking for ways to automate a lot of the tasks that consume your daily life. Rano's going to paste the link in the chat for that as well. And you can just click on the link you see there and you'll be taken to our website where you can enter your email, name, and organization's name, and you're ready to go with your free trial. Also, if you'd like to receive a call from one of our coaches, just type your phone number into the chat and I'll make sure one of our coaches, maybe Rano, gets in touch with you. So, if you have any questions about Wild Apricot and you're able to stick around after a few minutes, I'll pass the mic over to Rano, who can answer any questions you have because we always get a lot of questions about our software whenever we do a webinar. So here's Rano.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, everyone here. Thank you to our expert, our resident expert, Farhad. Thank you, Sonia and Donald, for organizing these things. It's always a pleasure sitting in on the end and try and answer some of you guys. If you have product related questions. And thank you again for attending. Please come back for the rest of the week. We have three other experts lined up for you. And also keep in mind that we also have expert webinars running from time to time, and we will always entertain your questions, whether it be at the end of these webinars or in person on a phone call or via email or whatever. The coaches team here, if you're starting off a trial, if you don't have a trial and you're not in you're already not using Wild Apricot, please, you feel free to get in touch with us. We're going to be in product for you on chat. You can reach out via email. You will receive, once you start a trial, you'll receive emails from us anyway. You can respond to one of those emails, or you can just book a call with us and just have a conversation with us. About exactly what your organization is trying to do and how we can maybe be a good fit or not. We like having candid conversations, so we will probably be able to either guide you in the right direction, or if we know, or tell you if Wild Apricot is a right fit for you or not. There's a couple of questions that are related to the platform itself. And Farhad's presentation, I will try to relate them back into the product as much as possible. One of the questions, well, one of the most common questions is, are you guys going to receive a recording of the today's presentation? And the answer is yes, of course. Plus the handouts and not handouts, well, the slides you will receive also for today's presentation after the summit is over. So by the end of the week, you will receive them. Also, Farhad pointed at me and pointed at a question before he left the room. He pointed at a question that he wants me to answer. That somebody had asked. I can't really place the question right now, but somebody mentioned if somebody or one of your competitors are also bidding on your keyword or your trademark or your organization name and so on and so forth. If it is worth to complain about it, yes, Google has very strict policies on these things. We have to do these things constantly, always. Also, so one of the things you can do is contact the organization or the people who are bidding on your keywords and trademarks and using them in the title of the ad. I believe they're allowed to bid on the keywords, but they can't use your trademark and stuff on the copy of the ad itself. As far as I remember, I actually had a conversation about this with Farhad a little while ago because we were facing the same thing. Uh, so yes, it is completely worth complaining about it. It's also probably better, better to just reach out to this organization yourself first and let them know that they're doing so, and they can voluntarily remove it, or you can ask Google to take action on it as well. I'm gonna go through the questions and see how many of them we can go through. I'm just gonna do 5 to 7 minutes today and not have you guys around for much longer, so you can just jump in on the Facebook group and continue the conversation with Farhad. A question we have is a wild apricot question for you. The best I can tell, it is not possible to count how many conversions were due to an ad because the event payment and membership registration processes don't have a final I'm done and have paid landing page to track. Are you familiar with this and how to track ad conversions? As far as I can tell you, you could possibly um, see this from Google AdWords itself, or you can embed Google Analytics on your Wild Apricot page. The best way to know more about this would be to just look up Google Analytics on our help site at gethelp.wildapricot.com or help.wildapricot.com. Both works fine. If you need further instructions or further questions about it, you can just, if you're a paid Wild Apricot user, you have access to unlimited tech support. Just send them an email and ask the question. And if they need further information to forward to you, they always leverage all the information within the organization. So we might be able to answer it better there. You can also, if you're part of the membership tribe on Facebook, you can ask the question there, and people will share their knowledge on how they're doing things. It's actually a great community there. I like answering questions there sometimes myself, but yeah, mostly people will share their experiences on there as well. So feel free to get in touch with either us or just post on the group. A competitor runs a, that's right, that was the question. Can you explain how to access meta tags and descriptions? It really depends on the tool you're using for your website. In Wild Apricot, it's very simple. Like you click on the site page, you click on edit, and if you scroll down to the bottom of the general settings on the left-hand side, you will see meta tags and stuff. It's always a good idea to use these things to begin with, even if you're new or even for organic stuff and everything. You'll see meta tags and descriptions you will see there are article tags and stuff at the top. So look up meta tags functionality, and you'll be able to figure out exactly how to use those tools on Wild Apricot itself. Other than that, there are some email tracking tools that can be helpful with figuring out exactly what your organization is basically looking for, what sort of information they're looking for, what sort of information they need. There's a few ways of doing A/B tests using your email tracking system in Wild Apricot as well. So yeah, feel free to get in on a trial and ask your question and have kind of conversations with as many people as possible. I'm going to try and go through the last end few questions and see if they are. Um, well, somebody recommended trying Yoast or Toast, I believe, if you have a WordPress site. And my organization is really small compared to your examples. My community is very rural. I believe Susan, um, uh, Farhad already mentioned that Google Analytics has their own tool inbuilt into, sorry, Google AdWords has their own tool. Um, which is not as effective, but it's a free tool. So you could take a look at that also. Um, Somebody asked, will these tweaks work for articles that are under tabs on the site and articles had to be on the home page? You know that your articles don't have to be on the home page. You should be able to rank for different pages on your website as well. And somebody else had also asked about forums, and I will tend to that as far as Wild Apricot is concerned. If they're members-only forums, usually they're not. I believe I had read something a while ago about how Google approaches forum posts for their rankings. You may have to read a little bit about it in depth, but yeah, Google it up. And since there are not many other product related questions, I'm going to jump off so you guys are able to jump in on the Facebook group and attend the conversation there. Farhad's going to be there for another half an hour, so feel free to bother him as much as you want about all of this. He's a great resource, and you'll see from time to time we'll have him make blog posts and come in on other webinars as well. You can see his other webinars on our academy as well. Please feel free to visit there. I have posted the link already in the chat box, and keep your eye out for the recordings that are coming at the end of the week. We'll see you guys for the rest of the week. Thank you for attending today. Thank you for sticking around and asking your questions and asking your product related questions. And for those of you guys who are not already in the Wild Apricot ecosystem, please feel free to start a trial and have a conversation with us. We are always willing to have as many candid conversations as you need to figure out if Wild Apricot is the right fit for you, or if you know of a tool that might be actually beneficial to you and your organization's growth. Again, thank you very much to the team here, and thank you to our expert today, Farhad, who's part of the team as well. And cheers from Toronto. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.